It blows my mind how some people don't think you can outsource a reselling business. I recently received a comment from this person who essentially called me out and said, Steve, you're a liar. There's no way you're doing $70,000 a month and working 1 to 2 hours per week. Tell the truth. Now, when I get comments like this, I take them very serious. And if this one person is thinking it, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who think, this guy's full of what. There's no possible way that you could be doing $70,000 a month, because maybe in your business, maybe you go to thrift stores or library sales, right? Maybe you hit garage sales or flea markets and you're doing $3,000 to $5,000 a month and you're working 25, 35, 45 hours a week. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm only doing $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 a month. How the heck is this guy doing $70,000 a month and only working 1 to 2 hours a week? Like, it sounds like a Tony Robbins infomercial, and I completely get it. And I want to break down in this video how I'm doing it and just give you some tips, right? And kind of break things down. Now, the first thing I want to say is, all because I'm doing $70,000 in sales, it doesn't mean it's all profit. In the last 30 days, I've done a little over $70,000, and my net profit, I'll put a picture on the screen, came to a little over $14,000, okay? So you have to understand I'm paying a price, right? And I'll put some more pictures on the screen from the last 30 days. I pay my virtual assistants about $2,200 a month. I have 4 virtual assistants. My prep centers like anywhere from $800 to $1,000. I have a team who, deals with all of my bookkeeping and my accountant, so on and so forth. So there's a monthly expense for that. There's Amazon fees. There's returns. In the last 30 days, I've had about 60 returns. So my return rate's pretty high at about 10%. But guess what? Some people were giving me a hard time about that, but who gives a crap what your return rate is? If you bake it into your margins and you know that your return rate's going to be at a certain point, who cares? Of course, you want to try to minimize that, but not all my returns are going to be unsellable. About 30 to 40% of my returns, I'm able to resell them. They're sellable. And if you use a tool called Sellerboard, you can actually track all of this. This is how I'm getting all of my numbers and my metrics. But the question is, Steve, how are you working 1 to 2 hours per week and, netting over $14,000 profit? Well, the way I'm doing it is, number one, I'm doing online arbitrage. So I'm not going to thrift stores. You've got to understand that. Like, if you're going to thrift stores and garage sales and flea markets, you're going to typically physically have to go out there, right? And if you were to hire somebody to do it for you, it would probably be just like way too expensive in terms of labor and whatnot, because in the United States, like, you're going to have to pay someone probably $20, $30 an hour with that type of specialty. And like, why wouldn't they just do it themselves, right? So that's number one. I'm doing eBay to Amazon flipping. I'm using a tool called Replen Catcher. I'll put a link down below. It's a tool that I use that essentially will search all of eBay, compare all the prices to Amazon, and if it's profitable, we purchase it. So I'm doing online arbitrage. I hire virtual assistants in the Philippines. I use a website called Onlinejobs.PH. Okay, so I'm able to hire people for anywhere from $3 to $8 per hour. My average virtual assistant is at about $5 an hour, but there's incentives, there's bonuses, and in terms of their wages, they're making more money than people that who have bachelors in the Philippines, just because the wages are different over there. So, it's more affordable and whatnot. That's number one. I'm doing eBay to Amazon, so online arbitrage. I'm hiring cheap labor in the Philippines, but I'm paying them amazing wages for where they live. I know there's gonna be people saying, oh, you're only paying $5 an hour. Go move to the Philippines, okay, and go work for a BP company for $2, $3 an hour. Plus they get to stay home, take care of their kids. That's another conversation for another day. But essentially, yeah, I pay about $2,200 for virtual assistants, $800 to $1,000 for my prep center, depending on how many items I'm selling. I have 2 virtual assistants who source everything for me with Replen Catcher. So everything that they source, they're able to pay for as well, because I store my credit card inside of eBay. So they can't use my credit card in terms of like, they can't see the number, but they could pay for it. I have a tool that I've developed called the E2A Mastersheet. It's a Google Sheet software that pairs up with my eBay account through the API, and everything that they purchase, it pulls it through. So we have spreadsheets that track everything. It's fully transparent. So there's no way that, I'm not in the loop. The only thing that I really do is I just check their purchases every day. They purchase it, they pay for it. And after they purchase it, how am I only able to spend 1 to 2 hours per week? Because I don't see the products. I don't touch the products. I don't list the products. I don't ship the products. I've trained them to do all the pricing. They put all the information in. So once they purchase it on eBay, the item gets shipped to my prep center. So this is a third-party logistic company. I use Little Olive Prep in Ohio, and it gets shipped to them. So they have a software that essentially every time we buy something on eBay, we just have to tell them it's going to them. So we'll put in the condition, the price, so on and so forth. So it gets shipped to them. Now, once it gets shipped to them, they'll prep it. They already have all the information to ship it to Amazon FBA. And again, with FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, when they receive it, they store it, they save it there, they deal with customer service, and when it sells, they pick it, pack it, and ship it. So all we really have to do on the back end in my 2 other virtual assistants is, number 1, they reprice inventory, and I use a repricer as well, which helps automate this, but I also have someone part-time who does all the repricing. And then I have another person who fixes all stranded inventory, opens cases, manages all the back end stuff. So how am I able to do 1 to 2 hours per week only? Because I'm only overlooking the business. Now, if somebody does quit or I have to fire somebody, or, maybe we're gonna, like right now we're possibly thinking about moving into a new repricer, like it's gonna take more time for me. But typically 95% of the time, this business is on autopilot. Like, this is one thing that a lot of people have to understand. Over time, you can build systems in your business and you could optimize things. You can make processes so they become automated and seamless, and you could use softwares to be able to save time. You could train people. Like, I've cloned myself 4 times with my business. So when you look at, someone saying like, oh, I'm working 1 to 2 hours per week, like, it sounds like baloney, but you have to understand, if you're used to doing everything in your business, like I used to, 10 years ago when I used to run a full-time clothing business, and, I had to go find all this stuff and list this stuff and clean this stuff and prep this stuff. I get it. It sounds bogus. It sounds ridiculous. But when you're doing online arbitrage, whether it's eBay to Amazon or traditional online arbitrage, or even wholesale, or, eBay to Amazon flips like me, you can really build a lot of freedom in your life. But one thing I want to be clear with is, a lot of people look at like what I say and they see what I say and they're like, wow, this guy just like completely outsourced his business in like a month and he's just living the life. Maybe I'm living the life to an extent right now, but you have to understand I paid my dues, right? Like, someone who you see who's really fit or lost a lot of weight, like I lost over 50 pounds in the last 18 months. I've literally transformed my physique. I'll put a before and after right here. You might think like, wow, like, oh, he took Ozempic, right? Or he just woke up like that. No, I busted my freaking ass. I went to the gym freaking 5 days a week, right? Really 3 to 4 days a week, but I did cardio almost every single day. I was eating in a calorie deficit. I changed my diet. I took supplements. I hired a functional medicine doctor. I hired a personal trainer. I hired a health coach. Like, I went all in and transformed my life. And just like my business, I hate to say it, a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work. I've put in the work. I am living in the trenches, learning new things, and I'm applying new things. And some weeks, maybe I work more than 1 to 2 hours a week. Maybe some weeks it's 10 hours because maybe I'm hiring somebody new, or I'm building a new system or a new software. But 95% of the time, it's pretty much running on autopilot because I've trained my team. I've invested a lot of time and capital. I've created hundreds of training videos. I've put them through all my courses. They're in my communities. They've attended webinars. I've invested in my team. And a lot of people, they again look at what I'm doing and they're like, wow, that sounds like BS. But you don't see what's going on behind the scenes. You don't see all the work. You don't see all the capital, right? I've been doing, like, with my model, eBay to Amazon, I've invested over 4 years into my team. My team's been with me for a long time. So this is what, like, just doesn't click in some people's head, is you just look at everything surface level and you don't understand everything from a conference, from a course, a program, a software, a successful Amazon business, a fit body. That's just the result. You don't see everything else that's going on underground. Like, when you see a tree grow, you don't understand the only reason it grew is because of all the roots and all the nutrients in the soil and everything that's going on behind the scenes. So this is why it's so important to attend conferences or watch a bunch of YouTube videos or learn from people who are ahead of you. And I'm not saying that I'm ahead of you because I don't know where you are in your life and your business, but if you're making a comment like this, like just calling BS, and I get it because we live in the age of, there's just so many phony baloney gurus out there. So many people on YouTube that are full of it, but they never share their seller board. They never share all their numbers. I literally shared with you all of my numbers. And this is the thing that sucks about YouTube, is you can never win. If you want to have privacy and you don't want to share your numbers, they call you a fake and a phony and a whatever. And then you share all your numbers. You're 100% transparent. You share the exact items. You give them the exact recipe. You gut the fish. You go to put it in their mouth and they're like, oh, it's poison. It's contaminated. It's a scam. It's like, what I've learned is there's just a lot of losers out there. And if you're a loser, you're just going to be a loser the rest of your life. I hate to say it, until you change your mindset. I'm not saying that this person commenting is a loser, but I've been in that mindset before where I'm so negative and I just, I'm in my own little small circle and I don't, network, and I don't go to conferences, and I'm just like, this is the way the world is. But you don't realize there's so many other things out there. Like in my reality right now, there's probably ways to make my life 1,000 times better if I just stepped out of my own reality and I networked more and I learned learn more and I educated myself. And that's why I'm always trying to read books and learn, because there's just so much growth potential out there. But if you're stuck in your own little box and you're just so negative, you're never going to grow, but you're the one who's going to have to deal with that, right? So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the name of the game, guys. You know, we leverage Replen Catcher. We buy everything on eBay, and this is just my model. I'm not telling you to do it. I have a team that buys everything. They pay for everything. We have softwares that help manage it. The E2A Mastersheet, obviously softwares like Replen Catcher to source. We have softwares like SellerAmp to help us break down and analyze deals, you know, very quickly. You know, I have bookkeepers. I have an accountant. I have multiple bookkeepers. I have people who source. I have people who prep all my items and ship it for me. Prep Center, right? Little Owl Prep. I've been using them for about 15 months. So you just have to understand there's ways to outsource and have freedom, but it's not for everybody. There's risks involved. There's a lot of money that I spend on products. There's more risk in my business due to just having more overhead. And that's why I really have to source like killer margins, especially because my return rate's pretty high at 10% because of the types of items I'm selling. And I have a team. It costs me about $7. I ran the numbers the other day based on the amount of items that we're purchasing and selling per month, which is anywhere from like 450 up to 600 items per month. Based on the overhead that I have, when I buy an item, I have about a $7 overhead from my cost of my prep center to the cost, like if I divide it out amongst all my virtual assistants, my bookkeepers, my accountant. So there's a lot of overhead, but the great thing is if I'm able to purchase items at a high enough ROI, like 50, 60, 70, 80%, it makes up for it and I'm able to have my freedom. But you have to do enough scale. So that's why I'm doing, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 a month, is because I need that scale to make up for the overhead that I have. So if you have any more questions, I'm an open book. Again, I'm going to put screenshots on this video that I posted in my eBay to Amazon Masterclass Facebook group, which by the way, it's free. If you want to learn more about what I'm doing, feel free to check that out. Also Replen Catcher, free 14-day trial. I'll put a link down below. But I try to be as transparent as possible, but I realize you just can't make everybody happy nowadays. There's just some people who just have a loser mentality. They think everything's a scam. They think everything's made up. They think everything's Photoshopped. And the reality is there's a lot of BS out there, but I like to think that, you know, after making 3,000 videos, that my true core value system is out there, and you know the importance that I hold in being honest and transparent and having integrity. But it is what it is. I mean, but yeah, that's it. That's how I work, only a couple hours a week. I've outsourced it all. And if you have any more questions, drop a comment down below. But with that being said, much love. See you in the next one. Bye.